Hello everybody, Michelle Greger from San Jose City College reporting in for Sculpture 40 and 42. I hope you guys had a great spring break and it's going to be wonderful to have our hands back in clay. Rather than making the full-scale head, I think we're going to do a project that's a bit smaller. We're going to make a head that's about quarter-sized head, which you'll be able to do in your own houses with the tools that we have. Because you won't have a board to work with, you can just use whatever you have. I'm going to use a little piece of cardboard here to build my head on. So I'm going to kind of review the steps of forming the primary forms of the head. I'm going to start with a small oval. And I will form this into the shape of an egg or an avocado. I want to get this shape as smooth and as even as I can. So I think I would compare this to an avocado. I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to take a small piece of clay, approximately a third or a half of the volume of the avocado, and I'm going to flatten this out, and I'm going to set this to the side. This is what I'm going to use for the back of the head. But before I add that on, I'm going to create the neck. And I'll use this to represent the shoulders. Now you may recall in the other video about the primary forms of the head is we talked about the neck being about the same width as the head. So it's important to have a neck that can support the head. I'm going to make sort of a cylindrical shape here. I can roll it in between my hands. Looks pretty good to me. I'll use my kitchen fork here so I can join these two forms together. This clay is pretty soft, so I don't need to score it. Rather to slip it. I'm going to join that on there. I'm going to cut a little diagonal here. And then I'm going to take my head shape. But before I do that, I'm going to attach the back of the head, the back of the skull. So I'm going to join this really high, attach that on there, and join the back of the head. Now if you need to refer to the first video that we looked at this semester when we went online about the primary forms of the head, I went into a lot of detail about making sure that the primary form was accurate before going into setting in the features, the secondary forms. So it would be a good idea to review that first video. Some of the most important things are to pay attention to are the form of the top of the head, the form of the side of the head, and of course the front of the face as well as the back. Now I'm going to set this right on top of the neck. When I set it on the neck, there's a couple of things I really want to pay close attention to. One of the things I want to look at is that the head is faced forward, that it's not sticking up, looking upwards, or not too far down. And now I'm going to join it up. Squish the clay together and attach those sections. Now's a good time to take a look at how the form is shaping up. I like to make marks, which I use as landmarks, and that's going to help me identify if my head is symmetrical from side to side. So first mark will be right down the center of the head. And you can see when I turn this to the back that it's not. There's some asymmetry there. So I've got to work on getting this primary form into shape before I go too much further. From the side, it doesn't look too bad. The back of the head is a bit higher than where the chin is, which is good. But it definitely needs some cleaning up before I go forward with the features. So I'm going to take care of that. I made a little rib out of a credit card, and this is going to be a wonderful little tool to use for shaping. So it's time to set in some landmarks. One of the most important things to do is to notice the top of the head. And I'm going to have to stand up here and look at it from above. I want the forehead to be a little bit more narrow than the back of the skull. So let me put in some of those lines again. So the first thing I'll do is I'll mark the jawline on both sides, and I will take my center line again right down the center of the face. I'm going to indicate where the hairline would be. Midway between the hairline and the jawline, I'm going to do a cross, and that's where my eyes are going to go. So just with my thumbs, I'm going to press right in there. The next little indicator I'm going to use is the nose. I'm going to take a tiny piece of clay, a triangle shape, and I'm going to set that right at that line underneath the eyes. I'm going to want to look at that from the side. I can see by looking at the side view of this little character that they need some chin. So I'll take a tiny ball of clay, and I'm going to add that right at the chin. I don't want to get caught up in any details as of yet. I'm still concentrating on the primary forms. Between the nose and the chin is where the mouth is going to be. And it's really important to know that if you imagine your teeth are in a curve. So don't make the mistake of putting those lips on real flat. You want to remember that it's a curve there. So I'm going to take my little rib here and I'm going to curve this area. So you can see underneath the nose and at the bottom of the chin, if I go about halfway, that's where I'm going to want to put my mouth. Just a tiny ball of clay. And I'm going to stick it right there. Actually, let me form it into sort of the shape of an olive or a tiny football. You'll remember that we did some drawings of the profile, and you can refer to those drawings that you should have in your sketchbook. And there was also a handout. So all profiles are different, but it's important to pay attention to where the features lie on the face. At this point in the process, we're just getting the primary forms into shape. In our next video, we'll go in a little bit closer and talk about sculpting the eye, the nose, and the lips. But for today's lesson, if you can get to the point where you have everything pretty much lined out, the forms as proportional as possible, you'll be in a good shape to go further. I'm going to look at this piece one last time before I sign off today. I'm going to make sure that I have my jawline drawn in there. I'm going to take a look at the profile. I can always add a little bit more chin. I can take away. I'm going to make sure I spend time looking at the top of the head, the form of it. Also the back of the head. I can see that I may need to add a little volume here and here. But I can get this all into shape and ready to go so that when we meet again, we'll be able to do the details of the head. This little guy here is going to need to be covered up with plastic. I'm going to leave it overnight and let it firm up. This neck is a little bit soft. If your piece starts to get too soft, a little trick is you can take a stick or a chopstick, a skewer. You could stick it all the way down in there into the neck, and that will stabilize the neck. When we come back next time, I'll pull that out, and hopefully this will be a little bit stronger. We'll work on the features next time. I'm so glad to be back with you guys again, to be working with clay. I look forward to the faces that you're going to make. We're going to end up hollowing these things out. We'll check back in on Wednesday. We'll go into the next steps for creating the small heads. Take care of yourselves. See you later.